The internet in recent years has become a breeding ground for strange, irrational fears, liminal spaces, images that feel like they should be bustling with life but instead feel empty and desolate, video game piracy screens, a dark commentary on how far studios will go to traumatize kids into giving them more money, lost episode creepypastas. But the irrational fear that I have is either going to make me sound completely insane, or it's going to stop me from feeling completely insane because it turns out everyone else has this fear as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I am terrified of broadcast interruptions. Okay, I don't want to do the entire video in the airing cupboard. Let's go back in time to where this all started. May 28th, 2018. I was watching Britain's Got Talent. Yes, at one point I did watch Britain's Got Talent. I sincerely apologise. Hopefully you all can forgive me and we can move on from this. I wasn't paying an awful lot of attention to the show. I was just sort of switching between having a quick glimpse at the boring dance act and scrolling through my phone. Until this happened.
Well, you might as well.
The screen froze and started glitching up a little bit. I didn't think much of this at first. This was just something our TV was prone to doing every once in a while. But this time it seemed to go on for way longer than usual. We were almost tempted to switch to another channel to see if things would be any better. But thank God we didn't, because then this appeared.
Well, apologies, but we do appear to be having some issues bringing you the live semi-final of Britain's Got Talent. We're working on them, and we hope to return to the studio as soon as possible.
And then this very creepy music started to play. Well, maybe it's not that creepy on its own, but given the context, I found it fairly off-putting. Maybe I am just completely alone in feeling this way, but I don't know, there was something very foreboding about all of this. I don't know if that's the right word. I had never seen anything like this up until this point. I had no idea this was even something that happened. I mean, it makes sense. It's impossible to have everything go right 100% of the time, but even so, it was pretty surprising.
Well, if you have just joined us on ITV, we're having some issues bringing you tonight's live Britain's Got Talent semi-final. We hope to return to the show as soon as possible, and we are working to fix the issue.
One of my biggest phobias when I was a kid, well, do you call it a phobia? I don't really know. A thought that terrified me as a kid and kept me awake at night was the idea of the TV just turning on by itself without me pushing a button. 2013 and 2014 was around the time I started finding out about video game and lost episode creepypastas. And I'm not making this up, that shit used to genuinely keep me awake at night. I could not sleep at the idea of fucking Jeff the Killer coming into my room at night. And obviously I'm older, I realise that it's all fake, none of it's real, but yeah, I was way too young to be looking that stuff up at that point, which I realise kind of makes it irresponsible of me to include the Jeff the Killer photo in all my videos. But I know I'm not the only one who's terrified of the idea of that face appearing on screen, and I used to think that was funny. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should stop doing that from now on. Okay, but I'm going off on a bit of a tangent. The point is, I'm terrified of the idea of something that isn't supposed to be on your TV appearing on your TV, and that was exactly what was happening in this scenario. And even though I found it unnerving, it fascinated me. As soon as the show ended, I went straight onto my laptop and started looking up a playlist of BBC and ITV technical faults. And there were two specific instances that stuck in my head for very different reasons. The first one took place during a show called Bingo Night Live. This was slightly different than the Britain's Got Talent one, because in that one it cuts to the screen so suddenly, whereas here they seem to be well aware of the fact that they need to go off air and are actually alerting their audience beforehand.
We are experiencing some technical problems. I've got my crocheted shawl to keep me warm and protect me with our studio, which prevents us from concluding this game on air. However, the system will continue to play the game on the website, and winners, that's you lot, will be notified by email, which is great. So we're going to take a short break to try and fix the studio problems and hopefully continue with the rest of tonight's games as soon as possible. So stay tuned. I'm going to get a little bit comfy. There you go.
Now, the bit that you might find funny, or if you're like me, you might find weirdly ominous, are the announcements that play while the technical difficulties screen appears. The clip that I'm about to show you has not been edited created by me at all. This is genuinely just how things played out on live TV, or at least this is what the YouTube re-upload looked like.
Now here on ITV1, I'm pleased to say that we can rejoin Bingo Night Live. I'm sorry to say that we're actually having a few technical problems with Bingo Night Live at the moment, but we are working to fix the problem and get back to the programme as soon as possible. Due to technical difficulties being experienced, I'm sorry to say that tonight we are unable to bring you Bingo Night Live.
So they announced that they were able to bring the show back, they were still having difficulties bringing the show back, and that they just couldn't bring the show back altogether, all within the span of 30 seconds. You seriously couldn't make this up. At this point, I hope I've done a good enough job explaining why I find broadcast interruptions so creepy. But if you're still not convinced, let's take a look at arguably the most infamous example of a broadcast interruption ever. The curious case of Max Headroom.
It's not easy being green!
If you're a fan of creepy mystery videos on YouTube, I imagine you know what I'm about to talk about. If you're unaware, this was a hijacking incident that occurred during the 1970s and involved a character called Max Headroom. Two separate hijackings actually occurred, one during a rerun of Doctor Who.
I'll get you a hot drink, miss.
Some dry clothes.
Because he's a freaking nerd. I think I'm gonna check Swarovski.
And another that occurred during just a regular news broadcast.
Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I.
Considering how creeped out I am by normal broadcast interruption screens where there's nothing scary going on whatsoever, had I have witnessed this shit occur live on air, I don't think I ever would have turned the TV on again. It genuinely blows my mind that something like this was able to happen. Some might argue it's cooler for a mystery like this to remain unsolved, but I don't know, dog, I need to know who the fuck did this. I'm sure there are fairly reasonable explanations, even if there isn't a concrete answer, but even so, whoever did this created a legendary moment in TV history, and regardless of the morality of what they did, I don't think you can take that away from them. Anyway, that's all I've got for this video. I'm your local pumpkin carver monobrow man, and enjoy spooky season while it lasts.
Hello, Chris. I'm Alan the Spatula. I'll tell you a joke. Knock. Who's...
I've just been playing with the light in here. Look, I look like I got a dog nose.